Food. There's a great post the other day by a Systema guy that I follow on Facebook. And he talked about the order in which we try to take care of ourselves, and it's usually movement first, then maybe diet, sleep, breathing. In that order. If most people don't get past movement, maybe diet. But the breathing is the most fundamental. If you do it in the order of importance to our system, it's the opposite. The breathing is the most important. Sleep is next. Then diet, then movement. So, something to think about. Anyway, food. It's our basic. We take in the world and pass it through us and use it to build ourselves. No. There's a lot of ideas and much of the thinking in the diet world as in the movement world, but it seems a little more obvious there for some reason, is here's the way you should eat. This is right for various reasons. And of course, my take is, well, depends on who you are. Because there's lots of different things that are utterly contradictory that all say they're right and have helped people. So, what do? You become aware of who you are, as always. Most of the problems in the gut, as in other places, come from disconnection and a lack of accurate feedback. We have all these stories in our heads about food and our bodies and what we should and shouldn't eat and what's healthy and isn't, but it's not based on listening. So how do we fix that? First, don't ignore the amazing role that physical sensation plays in being able to regulate your own gut. So, breathing, particularly breath holds, in particular in positions that sort of challenge the lumbar spine a little bit, visceral massage, spinal movements, for sure. And then more on the food front, what we want to do, and what the problem is that often in Western cultures, our digestion, we're not getting feedback about what's been happening for the last day or two. We're getting feedback about the last 3 months. And often we're a little backed up so that we're trying to digest things that are old, that aren't current. We want to get back to a place where we are present with our digestion, as well as anything else. We're aware of what's going on now, and we're not holding on to old things. So the food practices I recommend are fasting occasionally, intermittently, to give the body a break and a rest and help reset our perceptions of what it is. When are we actually hungry? What does it actually feel like to eat food in general, as well as that particular food? It tends to sharpen our awareness, and it gives our body a chance to process things that may not have been processed, to sort of get clean and establish that as a baseline, as opposed to whatever has been normal, which, as I've said before, normal is just something you've decided not to pay attention to. So we want to clear that out of the way. So fasting. Some people they'll fast for a day a week, or they'll, maybe 1 or 2 days a week they'll just eat in the evening, or there's a lot of different ways to do it. Try a few. See how it works. If you have issues with blood sugar, obviously, then you need to ease in. But that issues with blood sugar, unless they're deeper, like, say, type 1 or type 2 diabetes, point to an inability to regulate that system, and therefore it's even more important for those people to begin to work with this in a slow and kind way than anybody, because it's a system that's out of whack. So fasting and a variety of diets. We tend to kind of eat the way we eat. Some people will eat seasonally. I like that. But It's interesting that the traditional religious practices of the major religions of the world often offer a great example of good rules of thumb. If we look at them outside of what they may mean to our moral sense, we can look at the culture and the times hygienically and in terms of food and agriculture that they grew up in and say, oh, look at what they're asking their people to do. They believe that this is healthy, their environment and all that stuff. So, for instance, the Orthodox calendar, Russian Orthodox, the Orthodox Christian calendar is filled with all of these very particular, specific kinds of fasting, where you're not abstaining from food, but you're eating only this or restricting all of that, and those things can be dangerous when they're used in pursuit of the one true whatever, because a lot of those things feel good for a short or medium period of time but end up not being useful for a long period of time. But what they do is they get us used to trying different things and seeing how they feel. We're wringing ourselves out. Nothing more, nothing less. We're just saying, how is this? Oh, I wouldn't want to live this way, but these foods in particular felt good, or this was great for the first 2 weeks, and then I'd had enough. Whatever it is, or oh my God, I never knew that it felt so good to do X. If you're, a committed meat eater, being vegan for a couple weeks, see what happens.
You got it going.
See what happens. There's so many surprises that can be held, or maybe it confirms, your choices, which is great. But then it's not based on thinking or idealism. So, a varied diet, fasting occasionally, and really making sure that giving yourself the opportunity to make eating a deeply felt experience. Pay attention to the food in your mouth. Pay attention to chewing, to swallowing, to how it feels. How does your stomach feel? How does your pancreas feel? How do your kidneys feel? How does your liver feel? How does your small intestine and large intestine feel? Do you know how those feel? If you don't, look at some anatomy. Sort of gently explore a little bit with your hands so you start to begin to know where these things are. And maybe familiarize yourself with your own sense of the qualities of those parts of you from the inside. Because the goal is not to be correct, the goal is to be present. To refine our awareness, to clear the things that aren't about now. That's all we're doing. So, I'll have a supplement with some ideas, further explorations. Hope this helps.